This is a video I honestly never thought I'd make so early into my YouTube journey. I'm honestly still trying to process everything that's happened up to this point, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel at least a little bit out of my depth here. But we're here now, and I'm incredibly excited to see where things go from here into the next phase of the channel's growth. On the 5th of January 2021, I uploaded my very first video on this channel, and on the 15th of May, almost exactly 4.5 months later, we hit the 1,000 subscriber milestone. This is absolutely incredible, and I wanted to make this video as both a celebration of that and an update to the channel for all of you guys. Before we continue though, I'd like to firstly thank each and every one of you amazing people. This small community we've built is something incredibly precious to me, and I want to see it grow and flourish. I have some plans for that I'll reveal in a moment, but for now I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I'd also like to thank the wider BookTube and Cosmere communities. These are some of the most welcoming communities I've ever found myself in, and I'm incredibly grateful for all of the wonderful interactions I've had with everyone in these spaces. Both viewers and content creators alike have been nothing but kind to me, so I wanted to make it clear that I deeply appreciate all of you. So what exactly are we doing in today's video? Well, in this video there will be some important announcements, but also a fairly large Q&A section. So if you submitted a question, be sure to stick around. And without wasting time, let's move on to some updates and events upcoming for the channel straight away. And we'll start with the announcements with Discord. From the time that I started the channel and began to get some growth, I wanted to make it a place where we can grow a community talking about fantasy, the Cosmere, and all the books we love. Unfortunately, YouTube comments aren't the best medium for such a budding community to flourish. So I've started a Discord server. I've decided to be a bit cheeky and call it Raven's Roost. Basically, it's where we can all come together and just chat about all things fantasy, though I have made special accommodation for Cosmere discussions, of course. The server is still new, so I'm actively working on improving it and fleshing it out more. I mostly have text channels for now with minimal voice channels, but if there is interest we will add more. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the let me know in the Discord suggestions channel. I'm honestly so excited to get a proper central hub for this community to get together and chat and just geek out about all our favorite books. Now, I don't know how many of you would be interested in a community Discord server. Heck, I don't even know how many of you use Discord, but I do hope some of you will tag along as we build something awesome here. And it would also be another way for you guys to keep in touch with me. I've put the link in the description, so give it a click and let's start chatting. And while some of you may already be interested in joining just because you'd love to connect and chat, there's likely more of you that may need a bit further convincing. You see, I didn't just make the Discord for general chit chat. No, this is a place where we can drive community events and hangouts as well. Which brings me to my next announcement. The Year of Cosmere. So I've been planning on doing a reread of the entire Cosmere for a while now. I wanted to do a lot more videos on certain books, but I needed to refresh my memory and reread most of them. I've also wanted to do a read along with the community for a time as well. So I'd like to announce what I've dubbed the Year of Cosmere. It's a read through of the entire Cosmere, including short stories and novellas over the course of 12 months. It will be primarily hosted on the Discord server, but I will likely be doing a fair number of videos on the read-through as it progresses as well. Now, I understand if you may still be a bit hesitant. Maybe you're still new to the Cosmere and this sounds like a bit of a huge undertaking. Well, I've created a reading order of the Cosmere that I believe is probably one of the noob-friendliest reading orders out there. I've crafted the order to showcase the best of Brandon Sanderson from an entry point into the Cosmere, as well as slowly but surely introduce Cosmere level concepts as they become relevant. We'll start with the Mistborn trilogy, which I believe is the best entry point for anyone trying to get into the Cosmere. From there, we'll work our way through and finally at the very end finish off with Rhythm of War from the Stormlight Archive. Okay, so I understand if that all sounds a bit daunting to you still. You may be worried that this will take too much time and you'll never be able to stick with a regular reading group, but I have stretched this out a fair length. There's only one book that we'll be doing per month, maybe accompanied by a short story or two. I never go more than a single novel a month, and when it comes to Stormlight, I don't even combine it with short stories as well like I do the others. I've tried to make it as easy to keep up as possible, A single book per month should be achievable for most of us, with enough time for discussions around it as well. Now, what if you don't want to read the whole Cosmere, or you just have no interest in some of the books? Well, you're of course always welcome to jump in and out of the read-through as it progresses. The updates and timeline will all be available on the Discord server for you to see exactly when and where you can jump right in. Okay Raven, you make a good case, but I'm not sure I'll appreciate it as much. I'm new to the Cosmere, so I won't get the references. Look, like I said, I created the reading order to ease newbies into the Cosmere in the best possible way. But we'll also be discussing the books in the Discord as well. So if anyone has ever wanted a guided experience through the Cosmere before, this may just be what you're looking for. I believe this will be a really fun experience for the whole community, and if all goes well, we may even finish right before the next Mistborn Era 2 books release. Brandon has said that he should finish writing the book by the end of the year, so it'll likely be published by the latter half of next year. And with the read-through's expected end to be in May or June of next year, this will be the perfect opportunity to get your Cosmere reading in before the next entry. We know some crazy things are supposed to be happening in the next installment with some big Cosmere implications. And while I sound confident in finishing this within 12 months, I'm totally fine with matching the pace of the community. So if we progress faster, we progress faster. If we take longer, we take longer. We'll get to the end at some point, but we'll do it at the pace that's comfortable for us. So remember that the details will all be in the Discord, which you can find in the description and the pinned comment below. We'll begin the year of Cosmere on the 1st of July, so don't miss out. I'll definitely be posting a reminder when the start comes closer as well. I'm so excited to get started on this journey with you all. I'll be using the read-through to spur on new character analysis videos, lore deep dives, book discussions, and all manner of other videos you guys have been asking for. At the same time, we'll all be reading, discussing, and being absolute nerds about our favorite fantasy universe. I see this as an absolute win. It might not be the biggest read-through ever done, but it'll be awesome, and I hope to see you all there. But I think we've gone over all the major channel announcements for now. I've also toyed with doing watch-throughs of certain fantasy shows like Avatar or The Witcher, but that's another idea for another time. For now, let's move on to the main event of the video, which would be the Q&A. Questions and answers. So I posted a video when we were at around 920 subscribers asking you guys to leave any questions you may have for this Q&A video. I was almost instantly blown away by the sheer number of comments that video got, with a bunch of different comments from all of you. Some were silly while others serious. Some were questions about me, others about the Cosmere. I've gathered each and every one of these questions and we'll go through them here. We'll start off a bit light-hearted with some silly questions, but then we'll move on to the lengthier, more detailed ones. I've separated the questions into 4 sections based on the topic of the question. Light-hearted. The first one is from Ryan Ratchford, and he says, "Woo! Woo indeed, my friend, woo indeed. I'm so glad to be here." Second one is from Hanan. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but Hanan says, "Hi. Well, hello there." Next, we've got Funky Monkey saying, "How's it going, my man?" "It's going very well, my dude. Feels good to be making this video for sure. It's been quite a road and quite a journey, but I'm glad to be here." Next, we've got Nexus Shadow, or is it Nexi Shadow? I'm not sure, but Nexi Shadow, I'll go with that, says, "How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?" Well, Nexi, my answer is, a woodchuck would chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. So much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. He would as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Jesse, he says, "What's your favorite kind of spoon?" You know, a wise man once told me that it's not the type of your spoon that matters, but rather the motion with which you stir your coffee that makes the true difference. These two geniuses came together to ask what's probably the most important question ever asked on the internet. Basically, they both want to know, does pineapple belong on pizza? And my answer is, pineapple absolutely belongs on pizza, and I'm tired of pretending it doesn't. First, the sweet and savory flavor combination has been a part of human cooking since the dawn of time. To say that something sweet like pineapple doesn't belong on something savory like pizza is to spit in the face of all the chefs that ever donned an apron. Secondly, the acidity of the pineapple is supposedly very good for digestion, and I, for one, welcome the extra help after a couple of slices. Thirdly, saying pizza shouldn't have fruit on it is kind of dumb, since that means pizza with tomato or avocado on it shouldn't exist. And fourth, it tastes damn good and I will never say it doesn't. Did I just give a legitimate and thoughtful reply to what is essentially an internet meme? Yes. Yes I did, and I stand by my answer. Personal questions. So now we're at the personal questions, and Ishmael asks, where is your homeland? So for those of you who don't know, I'm from the Republic of South Africa. I was born and bred and still reside in the beautiful city of Cape Town. I'm not sure how many South Africans are watching right now, if any, but if you are, then leave a comment down below. Would be nice to see how many South Africans we have in the community. Azaula Reading asks, what's your day job? Well, without completely doxing myself, I'm essentially a professional problem solver. I work for a well-known security company, and my job is to ensure that people don't terminate their contracts with the company and to make sure that any problems that may arise are resolved. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills. The next is from Don Grill, and Don asks, what kind of music do you listen to? Well, my tastes are fairly varied actually. I enjoy 80s classics by Bon Jovi, Queen, Guns N' Roses, Michael Jackson, etc. I also like more modern alternative rock like the works of Red Hot Chili Peppers, Offspring, Green Day and Panic! At the Disco. Then I'll have days where I only listen to all the rap albums produced by Eminem or all the electronic techno hits by Daft Punk. It depends on my mood, but more often than not I'll be listening to rock or rap. Rock for the sound, rap for the wordplay. Amar asks, what is your favorite movie made in your homeland? This one is a bit tough. You see, I don't really watch movies all that often, and I really don't enjoy most of what's produced in my own country. But if I go off the movies I did enjoy at the time, I could probably name a few. For those of you who don't know, South Africa is a huge melting pot of different cultures, religions, languages, and beliefs. So you could have South African produced movies that are targeted more towards a certain culture than others. And if I take the movies I've watched that's targeted more to the culture I come from, I really liked movies such as Bakgat, a high school comedy. I also liked Platteland, a small town musical drama. But like I said, I don't watch movies all that often and mostly don't enjoy movies from South Africa. The ones I mentioned are actually movies I watched back when I was a teenager, so it's been a good couple of years and I've probably missed a good few movies that came out since. Jack Rowan asks, do you like anime? If so, what are your favorites? Also, how would you feel about an animated Stormlight Archive series? To answer the first half of this question, yes, I do like anime. Unfortunately, I really haven't watched much of it since high school, but I still enjoy it when I do get around to watching some of it. My favorite anime series of all time is Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, but I'm pretty sure that's at the top of a lot of people's lists. Some of my other top favorites include Black Lagoon, Shingeki no Kyojin, and Death Note. I more recently enjoyed One Punch Man, Assassination Classroom, and Anohana. And of course, I grew up on a mix of Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, and Yu-Gi-Oh, so I've definitely got my anime credentials. As to the second part of your question, I think I would enjoy an animated series of the Stormlight Archive a lot, especially if it's accurate and high quality. That said, I think the books would be better adapted as a live action series if it could be done well. There's a multitude of reasons why I hold this view, but I definitely wouldn't be disappointed if an animated adaptation were announced. This next question is from Katika, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Junior, and they ask, what book made you realize that you love reading? Wow, this is another tough one. Trying to remember the book that cemented my love for reading as a child feels nearly impossible to do. I suppose the most accurate answer would be the Harry Potter series. While it wasn't the first books I ever read, it was definitely instrumental in teaching me to love reading and being a reader when I was younger. So while it's not the most exciting or unique answer, it's definitely the most accurate I can give. Pedro asks, besides fantasy, what other genres do you enjoy reading? This is another tough question since I almost exclusively read fantasy. Not because any other genres are bad, but just because fantasy is what I enjoy and it's the genre I can let my imagination run wild with the most. Is horror an acceptable answer? It's close to fantasy, but not exactly fantasy. Basically, when I'm not reading standard fantasy, I'm probably reading something by Stephen King, so I guess that's my answer. Duke of Denver, oh well, your lordship. He asks, what is your favorite non-fantasy books? So, expanding from the previous answer, my favorite non-fantasy books are mostly Stephen King novels. And my top favorite Stephen King novels would be It, The Stand, The Shining, and Salem's Lot. Granted, there is a lot of fantasy elements in all of those, but that's the closest I can come to non-fantasy for you. Seepaw asks, any sci-fi you read? Dune would fit the aesthetics of your channel quite well. Well, sci-fi is the closest cousin to fantasy that exists beside horror, and I'm a little ashamed to admit that I haven't really delved into sci-fi much. Actually, I haven't really delved into it at all. So I can't truthfully answer the question. However, I did recently buy the 50th anniversary edition of Dune and I fully intend to read it soon. So ask me again in a year and I'll hopefully have a better answer for you on that one, because I do intend on getting to more sci-fi in the future. Soren Markov asks, how did you get into Sanderson? Well, I got into Sanderson the way most people get into Sanderson. I'd been hearing about Sanderson and the Cosmere for ages, and I had watched a fair number of Sanderson's writing lectures. I also listened to about 12 seasons of his Writing Excuses podcast. So I eventually decided to give his works a try, and like most people who get into Sanderson, I started with Mistborn. That was about 2 or 3 years ago, and the rest, as they say, is history. Alex asks, what is your favorite series beside the Cosmere? My favorite series beside the Cosmere? Well, in all fairness, the Cosmere isn't really a series. It's more a collection of books and series in a shared universe, so comparing it to something else really isn't a fair comparison. But if I had to pick a fantasy series besides any of Brandon's works that I enjoy, it would probably be the Song of Ice and Fire series. It's what got me into wider fantasy, and while I hold no hope to see it completed, it's still an amazing series up to the latest entry. Seepaw asks, are you keen for the House of the Dragon show? The short answer for this is no. The long answer for this is that while I enjoy the world that George R.R. Martin has created, I can't say I'm excited to see the show. The showrunners of Game of Thrones has forever broken my trust in Hollywood's ability to respectfully and faithfully adapt anything in this universe. That said, I have an open mind and I'm willing to be proven wrong. So I'll definitely watch it, but I won't get my expectations up. I hope that Game of Thrones was just a fluke and that future George Martin works are adapted well, but only time will tell. Mandar asks, 2021 TBR? Well, it's a bit of a shame that we're nearly halfway through 2021 and I never put out a video with my TBR on it. I'll definitely do one for next year, but I'll give you a brief overview on what I hope to read in the remainder of this year. Firstly, I'd like to get about halfway through the Wheel of Time series. I'm currently reading book 2, so I'm fairly confident I can make it there by the end of the year. I'd also like to read the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks, the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, and of course, the Cosmere reread that I'd like to do. There are some other books I'll be reading as well, but these are the main highlights I'd like to get to. Next we have the Dalinar Colon asking me, what's the most underrated fantasy book in your opinion? I would say it's The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. While I had my major issues with the book and the Kingkiller Chronicles in general, I think a lot of people dismissed the book purely because they didn't like the first one. I don't think I'll ever be a true Kingkiller fan, but I do respect what Rothfuss tried to accomplish. Too many people are far too dismissive when it comes to his works, and very few try to see deeper than their initial indignation or dislike of the first book. Seepaw asks, do you have any writing work in progress that you plan on trying to publish one day? So, I've wanted to be a writer for a good decade now, and while I have a handful of short stories under my belt and a couple of failed novels to boot, I don't currently have anything I'm actively working on. I did, however, recently finish a short story titled The Walls of Galderon, and I even considered doing a reading of it on the channel, but I doubt many people would be interested, so I scrapped the idea. I will say, however, that it is my dream to eventually be a published author, so I'll definitely be writing more as time goes on. So watch this space, I guess. YouTube. Soren asks, why did you decide to start a YouTube channel? This could end up as a very long answer, but I will try to keep it short. Basically, I've been a fan of BookTube for a long time, and I always enjoyed watching videos on books I'm reading. I've also been a huge fan of video essays for an even longer time, and I could spend hours devouring video essays on various topics. Then one day I realized, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I could find a YouTube channel that discusses the books I've read in the style of video essays? Basically, I was looking for a channel I could watch that uploaded regular, consistent videos where the characters, themes, plots, and worlds of different fantasy books are being discussed and analyzed. I had grown far too tired with the usual BookTube style of reviews, TBRs, BookTube tags, book hauls, and shelf tours. Nothing inherently wrong with these videos, but it seemed to me that every channel was doing the same thing. Every time a new booktuber uploaded a book haul or a seasonal TBR, I found myself asking, okay, but why would I care? I didn't ask myself that to disparage the booktuber or to think that the videos were inherently trash or anything. I just genuinely couldn't think why I would watch a random booktuber's bookshelf tour. To me, it just seemed like I'm watching the YouTuber go, hey, look what I have, or hey, look what I want to do at some point. And while those videos are perfectly fine, it didn't stimulate my geeky mind the way I wanted it to. I craved discussion on the books. Most reviews are spoiler free, and even the spoiler filled ones only lightly go over the major events in the books. I wanted to find a channel where the booktuber had read the book and then actually talks about the content of that book at length. I wanted discussions on the characters, themes, magic systems, etc. I wasn't looking for a channel that talked about books. I was looking for a channel that had in-depth discussions on stories that I loved. Unfortunately, I never really found a channel like that. I looked everywhere and struggled to find any channels that actually discussed these things. So I decided to start my own channel. I had just gotten deep into the Cosmere and I decided I'd at least make a couple videos on that until I got bored or ran out of ideas. But luckily that never happened, and now here we are. And as luck would have it, I immediately found another channel that does exactly what I was looking for shortly after starting. This would be Lost in Discovery, and Christian from that channel has really set the bar for high quality video essay style content centered around books I enjoy. But I had already started and I wasn't going to just give up because I found a channel making the videos I was looking for. I'd always been told that if you're going to do something, you might as well do it right. So I put in as much effort as I could as a brand new YouTuber. I learned to edit, I learned to be consistent, and I learned to put out videos of a consistent quality on a consistent basis. I'd always been pretty good at writing essays, so combining that with my newly acquired video making skills has resulted in the channel you're watching right now. And while I don't think my channel is anywhere near where I want it to be in terms of quality, I think I've definitely shown what I can accomplish by putting my nose to the grindstone and working as hard as I can. Oh wow, this answer has been way too long. I think it's time we moved on to the next one before this becomes the point of the whole video. Dean Cook asks, what's your long-term plan with YouTube? What would you like to achieve? Well, it depends on what you mean by long-term. But I would say that I would eventually like for this channel to be one of the top places people can come to for discussion on fantasy media. The focus is on fantasy literature, but I'm not against talking about series, movies, or even games. I'd like for this channel to be where fantasy nerds can come to talk about their favorite fantasy series and books, and where we can all enjoy the genre together. I think that would be my ultimate goal for the channel. Andrew asks, how much time do you spend making or managing videos for the channel per week? That's a tough one. If I added it up all together, I probably spend about 5 hours making a single video. Depending on the video, it could be a bit more or a bit less, but 5 hours is probably an accurate average. That includes writing, recording, editing, uploading, responding to comments, monitoring the analytics, etc. So extrapolate that over the 3 videos I usually do per week, and I probably put in anywhere between 15 and 20 hours a week on the channel. If I ever make it to the point that I could do this full time, then that number would probably double, but for now, 15 to 20 hours a week is fairly accurate. This number doesn't, however, count in the time I spend reading, which is probably an additional 5 to 10 hours a week, though I'd like to increase that if I can, since the channel kind of relies on it. So if I put the videos and the reading together, I spend a total of about 20 to 30 hours a week on this channel on average. Seepo asks, what equipment or software do you use for your videos? Also, celebrate 1,000 subs by a live stream if that's possible. Unfortunately, I can't do any live streams for a while until I sort out some real life logistics to make it happen. But I hope this video suffices for a bit of a fun celebration of this awesome milestone. And in terms of what I use to make my videos, well, I write my essays on my laptop, I edit with a program called Sony Vegas, I use a mic to record and an audio editing program named Audacity to smooth out the sound and cut out any background noise. It's nothing fancy, and to be honest, I could do with an upgrade in certain departments, but it gets the job done, so I can't really complain. Marcus Biersack asks, how do you come up with lore theories and how do you research and try to confirm them? Well, it starts with reading a book and thinking on the events within the book, of course. Then I'll discuss the book with people, listen to other people discuss it, and look up further information on a book's wiki page or fan site. Once that's done, if I have a video I want to make, I'll begin working on it. Once I've written the essay, I'll look at the fan site or the wiki to fact check and edit. Sometimes I'll be researching and I'll discover something new that interests me. Then I'll look into it and that might end up being a video on its own as well. So usually I'll end up with a couple of videos from just a single one. Seepo asks, lastly, which YouTuber would you like to collab with first once you hit those high subs? Jay, captured in words, is pretty cool in my opinion. I'd like to see you hook up with smaller Stormlight channels, like Cam Reeds or others before then. While I would love for the opportunity to work with many of my favorite booktubers, the real answer is that I probably wouldn't collaborate with someone unless there's genuinely good content to be made. I've seen some collaborations that are very forced and unnecessary, so I've told myself that I'll only collab with another YouTuber if the content is something I'd be proud of making. That said, I'd be lying if I claimed I wouldn't jump at the opportunity if Captured in Words contacted me to collab. I'd also love to collab with Lost in Discovery, Me, My Skirt and I, and the Fantasy Network, and a handful of others as well. I doubt it would ever happen, but it's that kind of pipe dream we would all secretly harbour but have no real expectation of ever coming true. And of course, I have to mention Daniel Green and Murphy Napier. They're titans in the sphere, so I don't think they know that I exist, but I felt that I had to mention them as an obligatory booktube offering. Anyway, I've never really heard of Cam Reeds though. I'll definitely check them out. Thanks for the suggestion. Cosmere. Lorana asks, what is your favorite book of the Stormlight archive? I actually have a video coming up ranking my top 10 Cosmere books, but to give you a sneak peek for now, I think that Way of Kings is the better written and more significant book. It has solid writing and sets up the world masterfully. That said, Oathbringer will always have a special place in my heart despite the issues it has. So while I think Way of Kings is the objectively better book, I personally prefer Oathbringer. God? The God? Wow, okay guys, this is an important question. It comes from our literal Lord and Savior. God asks, what Radiant Order would you join? This one also has a bit of a double answer. So I took the official Knights Radiant quiz a while back. I also did it 3 times to be absolutely sure of the answer. It seems my personality is very much aligned with the Elsecallers, since that's the #1 order I get with the quiz every time. And I personally really like the philosophy of the Elsecallers the most of all the orders. That said, I think the Dustbringers, Skybreakers and Edge Dancers are probably some of the coolest orders and definitely wouldn't say no to joining any of them. So my main answer is Elsecaller, but barring that option I would go for one of the other 3. Nitsuj, I'm actually not sure how to pronounce that, but I'm going to call you Nitsu. Nitsu asks, who's your favourite Mistborn character? Well, for Era 1, my favourite is Sazed, as I'm pretty sure many will agree. For Era 2, my favourite is Waxilium Ladrian. A bit cliched to pick the protagonist, I know, but I really enjoyed Wax a lot more than I enjoyed the other characters in Era 2. Carl Smith asks, have you ever heard of the graphic novel versions of Stormlight and other series? They're absolutely fantastic. I actually haven't. Is that a thing? I know White Sand is a graphic novel series, but I wasn't aware that there are graphic novel versions of Stormlight or others. I'll have to look into it since it sounds absolutely incredible. I'd love to see Stormlight in a graphic novel form. Unless you mean graphic audio? Because I know those exist and I've wanted to listen to them for a while, but I don't think I'll get to those anytime soon. Maybe I'll do the graphic audio for Stormlight just before Season 5 releases. Let me know in the comments if you meant graphic novel or graphic audio. Our next question is from XHTXRaptorF22. Great name. But they asked, when and where have we seen hemalurgy on Roshar like Brandon has said? This must be a word of Brandon that I've missed. There's an instance of hemalurgy on Roshar? If I think about it, I can't come up with any instances. It's probably a very obscure or convoluted Easter egg Brandon slipped in somewhere. This will be the perfect thing to look out for during the Year of Cosmere, so I'll let you know if I find it. Other than that, I couldn't really answer the question. Hemalurgy can be hidden well, and often you won't know someone used it unless they have powers they didn't have before. We'll have to keep an eye out for any mentions of that. Bill asks, what the hell is that sphere that Hoid was speaking to at the end of Elantris? Who was he talking to? You're probably referring to the scene where Hoid talks to the Skaze, or Skazy, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but I pronounce it Skaze. There isn't much information on the Skaze, but Brandon has confirmed some details for us. Skaze are like Scions, but instead of being splinters of devotion like Scions are, Skaze are splinters of Dominion. They're much more plentiful on Fjordell compared to Sikla. Other than that, we don't have much more information. But I honestly can't wait for more novels on Selg to learn more about the magic on that world, as well as the creatures like the Skaze and the Scions. Ryan Ratchford asks, what's your craziest Cosmere theory you believe in? While I wouldn't say that I believe in this theory, the craziest one I know of is one where someone once said that Calcia would eventually take up all the shards and become the new Adonalsium. I don't think I've ever laughed as loudly at a theory as I did at that. As to a theory I believe, probably that Kaladin would die in Book 5 and Dalinar would lose to Taravangian. Not all that crazy, but definitely a theory people would fight against. Marley says, oh my god, I thought you were going to delete your channel with the way this was phrased. Yeah, sorry, I phrased the video where I asked you guys to drop the questions a bit wonky. My bad guys if any of you got worried, but no, I'm not deleting the channel. Molly goes on to say, is there any character that you desperately wanted to see on screen more? Wow, that's a bit of a tough one considering all the characters we've met over the whole Cosmere. Let me see. If I take it by planet, on Roshar, I'd like to see more of Risen and Chiri Chiri for sure. On Cell, I'd easily pick Shy. I definitely want to see more of Shy. On Scadrial, I'd love to see more TenSoon. I feel like there's a lot more to that character that we aren't getting. On Nalthis, I would say Susebron, definitely. I want to learn more about Susebron now that it can actually speak. If I had to pick one out of all of these, it would probably be Risen, if I'm going to be honest. Look, I know we got a whole Risen novella, but I'm up for a whole Risen novel actually. I really enjoy Risen and Chiri Chiri, and I definitely want to learn more about Dawn Shards, so yeah, that's my answer on that one. Craig asks, what's the differences in the magic systems with the door on Cell? What do we know about the different countries? Well, I'm actually working on a Cosmere 101 series where we go in depth on all the different planets of the Cosmere. I'm not sure if the first episode of that is out yet by the time this Q&A goes live, but the first one is on Nalthis. I think Cell is either second or third, so keep an eye out since I'll definitely be going over all the nitty-gritty detail you're asking for. Willie Carpenter says, so this is more of a comment than a question. If Kaladin is killed in Book 5, Syl would still live. I have 3 frontrunners of who she might bond with in later books. Oridon, Cal's younger brother, would be great, but if the time jump is only 5 years, he'd be too young. Gavinor, same problem as Oridon though. And Adolin, High King of Roshar with Shallan as his queen. If Kaladin does die and Syl rebonds anyone, I doubt it would be Gavinor or Adolin. I don't think Adolin will actually become a Radiant, and I have a feeling that if Gavinor ever became a Radiant, he'd become a Lightweaver. That leaves Oridon. If he's old enough, then it may happen, but my honest opinion is that Syl would never bond again if that is the case. Okay, so this next question comes from someone whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, or even attempt to look up how to pronounce. So sorry, random person, I appreciate your question, but I can't read your name. Anyway, they ask, why did the Deadeyes all come to lasting integrity? Are all Deadeyes connected somehow? I don't think that this was ever explained, and I'm not sure that Brandon Sanderson gave any reason for it, but here are my thoughts on it. I don't think there's any solid in-world reason for them coming together other than that they were intrinsically drawn to the area due to the events taking place. But my opinion is that Brandon did this to put the large number of Deadeyes in the mind of the reader. Remember that Deadeyes only appeared after the Recreants. Before that, a broken bond would not cause a Spren to become a Deadeye. We know that the Recreants occurred right after Ba-Adon Mishram was captured, and Kalak the Herald confirms that the capture of the Unmade caused something fundamental in Roshar to break. So my thoughts are that Brandon did this to remind us of the Deadeyes as well as their vast numbers. The reason for this being that Shallan is searching for Ba-Adon Mishram and will likely free her from her prison. When this happens, all the Deadeyes might very well become healed, and it will be important for the reader to have an idea of how many Deadeyes there could be, as well as be more familiar with them through the trial scene in Rhythm of War. This is just the narrative reason I could see for the gathering. Perhaps there is something happening with the spiritual connection or identity, but I don't think we could say for sure. Here's a crackpot theory I just came up with, so feel free to run with it if you like it. The cognitive realm is based heavily on location. For example, all magic on Cell is location based because of the door being in the cognitive realm. Thus, a person's spiritual connection to a location will influence the magic that person can perform. You can move an Elantrian to my pawn, but that doesn't mean the Elantrian can use forgery. Their connection is still to Elantris, and the magic of Elantris is based on location thanks to the investiture in the cognitive realm. So back to Roshar. The whole trial is happening in the cognitive realm, and all the Deadeyes showed up to lasting integrity despite there being nothing that could have spurred them on. And remember that Spren are mostly cognitive beings as they are from the cognitive realm, but also exist partially in the physical realm. So something might be happening with the spiritual connection of all the Deadeyes. Their connection is compelling them all to come to lasting integrity. Previously they would go where their Shardblades were and where their bearers carried them, and they had no reason to do this since they could be summoned regardless of where they are in the cognitive realm. But they follow the bearer regardless because their spiritual connection is linked to the Shardblade form and because they dwell in the cognitive realm, which is location based. Could their spiritual connection to something more important have dragged them all to lasting integrity? Perhaps. Perhaps whatever Maya and Adolin have between themselves are drawing the Deadeyes. Something about Adolin not being a Radiant despite all those around him being one, as well as him having such a bond with Maya, seems very significant to me right now when you consider all of this. Were the Deadeyes drawn to lasting integrity? Or were the Deadeyes drawn to Adolin and Maya? I guess we'll have to see. Also, this is something I literally just made up, so if there are any holes in the theory, and I'm sure there's a ton of them, then please feel free to disregard it. I haven't checked to verify any of this information. Terence Hill says, I'd like to see and hear your interpretation of Shallan, Radiant, Veil, and most importantly, Formless. I did a character study on Shallan and her altars on the channel already. I don't think there's much more I can say about it that I haven't said already. I do, however, really like Shallan's arc and her different personalities a lot, and I can't wait to see more of them. I feel bad for referring you to another video here, but it's really just the best place for you to get the answer you're looking for. Ryan Ratchford asks, what's your personal thoughts on Moash? Similar to the previous question, I would suggest you look at the video I did on Moash. You can probably already guess how I feel based on the fact that I titled the video in the vein of defending Moash's actions. I think Moash is a man who is deeply tormented and who has made a lot of bad decisions, but I think the community likes to condemn him without properly considering all the different factors at play. I would watch the video on it since I go into a lot more detail there. The person with the funny name and Raptor in it, again, says, what is your preferred reading order, or what order did you read in? The order I started the Cosmere in was the first Mistborn trilogy, followed by Elantris and Warbreaker, and then I binged the entirety of Stormlight. My preferred reading order is the one that I've actually set up for the Year of Cosmere read-through. If I had the opportunity to start the Cosmere fresh, I would follow that order for sure. Oh wow, is that it? We're at the end? Wow, that was a lot of questions, and I hope you guys enjoyed the answers. This has been an incredibly long video, and it's likely going to take a healthy chunk of time to edit, but I hope you all enjoyed how it turned out. Please remember to check out the Discord and to leave your suggestions for any improvements you'd like to see. Please also consider joining the Year of Cosmere read-through. I honestly feel like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get started. Remember that the start date is the 1st of July, but I will announce it again closer to the time. Here's a cheers to the first 1,000 subscribers, guys, and the next 1,000 to come. This has been such a great experience on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing where else this journey takes us. Anyway, that has been it from me for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. My name has been Raven, and I will see you all next time. Take care, everybody.